Hello, Excellence, in particular, people that attended the readiness sprint. We are here, Maria and myself, with Richi today to talk about success beyond success. There were some questions that came up in the readiness sprint, and I think there are some questions in our wider community around how we deliver success beyond success with maximum impact. So we're going to ask Richi some questions, and he's going to give us his thoughts around this, and then we'll see where we go from here. So Richi, the first question that we'd really like to address to you is, what is the key misconceptions when teaching success beyond success?
Well, Leanne, when we were in doing the teaching sprint, and I think Dario was presenting the material. One of the things I noticed, and we told him this in the feedback, was that there is a big risk that the way you present the model leads participants or workshop attendees to believe that we are saying success is not important. And this is absolutely not what we mean. The thing we really mean is that by behaving or acting, showing up moment by moment, and being in alignment with your values, one of which I believe to be excellence and to deliver on your promises and accountability, the likelihood that you will accomplish what you want increases. That focusing exclusively on what you want is not a good strategy to accomplish that. And the only thing you can do, because you don't control getting what you want, is how you show up moment by moment. And is that thing that you are doing aligned with a set of ethical values that you hold dear? And if that is so, what we claim is that the likelihood of accomplishing your goals increases. And that is not what I got from Dario, but also from many others that I've seen present success beyond success as a model where you claim that, well, you did your best and still you didn't accomplish your goals, so everything is okay. I do not believe everything is okay. I believe that we help companies and teams and organizations to behave in a way that's going to yield sustained exceptional performance. And so it's success beyond success is also at the service of that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think it helps with the next question, which is like, when the participants are leaving that section, what are we wanting them to take away?
What I want them to take away is that there is a way to integrate and to maximize the chances they will meet their goals by focusing on what they can do, which is how they show up, and checking, as I said before, moment by moment, is this something that's aligned with my values? Am I proud of myself? And the paradox here is that by not focusing on the end result, you end up many times accomplishing your end result. While when you focus exclusively on the result, that takes away your power to act moment by moment, and then it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You miss your goals, and then you are frustrated. So I think this is a very, very empowering concept, which is kind of tricky to understand sometimes, because
thank you, Richie. I think it is tricky, and I think that there are some when we teach it, sometimes we miss pieces. And I think one of the things that I've been getting out of our conversation is the thing that we miss which is the values that we are focusing on is about excellence. It is about achievement. It is about
yes, and also integrity, honoring and not hurting other people. So one of the examples we give sometimes is you are playing a football game, and of course you want to win. That's a goal, but you don't want to win at any cost. You're not going to break your opponent's leg to win, because that violates something that's even more important than winning, which is behaving in an ethical way and playing by the rules of the game. So it's not winning at any cost. And paradoxically, by focusing on not winning at any cost, you increase the chances of winning.
Yeah, nice.
That's a paradox.
And well, do you have a business example that you give people when you're working? Because I know that there's quite a few kind of life examples, and Frank mentioned one in the readiness process around running a marathon. You've just mentioned one around sport. Is there a business one that you could give people?
Well, in many, there are many examples where you commit to some numbers in the budget, and I see people under stress. Many clients, many coaches under a lot of stress, because something happened in the context, the evaluation or competitive landscape or a new entrant in the market, or something happened that puts the numbers at risk. And then when they start, to just look at the numbers, I have to make the number, I have to make the number, I have to make the number, they have like an emotional breakdown. So they get paralyzed. They stop being creative. They stop inventing. They stop asking questions. And then, when they start to focus, so let's stop looking at the result and let's see where we are today and what can we do, what could we do together that we haven't thought of before. And then they relax into the uncertainty, and they start to do their job rather than obsess about the result. That focusing on moment by moment, doing what we can right now, right here, right now, creates opportunities that many times cause them to exceed the original number. I've seen that over and over in my clients. Yeah. And then it's like, it's magical. We don't know what happened. Well, what happened was that you stopped obsessing about the end result, and you started focusing, you do moment by moment. And I think that's a beautiful example. And we find them everywhere, in every client, where sometimes something happens in the way either an individual or a team starts to operate, that everything kind of slows down. It moves like into slow motion, and everybody feels the flow of the moment. And then achieving the result or making your time in the marathon becomes so obvious and so easy that nobody can believe it.
Yeah, I love that.
An example I have found not once, but many times.
Thank you. I think that's a great example. And I think what we might do as a follow-up to this video is ask people in the community to share their examples.
Do you have examples like that? Yes.
Yeah.
Even in workshops, I think a beautiful conversation in the workshop is, look, let me tell you a story. And then you tell the story I just told you.
Yes.
And then you said, does this story resonate with anyone here?
Right.
Either at work or outside of work, where because you stopped obsessing about the end result, and you started thinking or speculating about what can we do now that's different, what can we create right here, right now, then suddenly a whole new world opens up to you.
Yeah. Thank you, because I think that kind of covers the next bit that we were looking at, which is like, how do you lead into it, or how do you hook? And that sounds like a great example that you could offer to people before you even start the conversation. So I love that.
Yeah. Has it happened to you that, and even, and I want to say this carefully, because it could sound like it contradicts my initial statement, it could happen that you do your best to the best of your ability and still you lose a game.
Yeah.
So if your goal is to beat Federer or Nadal in tennis, even if you focus on what can you do right here, right now, moment by moment, how can you get more creative, the chances are very slim still. So the big question is, how can you rest at the end of the day, even if you failed, in the peace of mind that you did your best, you tried your best. That does not mean there will not be consequences because you don't meet your goals. You have to face up to those consequences, and maybe it's, well, obviously tennis is not my thing, I have to do something different. But in the job, it could mean that, you know, your boss gets angry at you, you get demoted, you even may get fired. But that does not negate the fact that by doing that, by focusing on the process, the likelihood of delivering on your promises to your company, to your boss, increase, in my opinion, tenfold.
And I think there is a misconception also, because it's not about releasing the outcome or stop worrying about the product goal because it's not important.
Because I don't care. Yes, exactly.
Exactly. Or because if you don't meet it, then nothing happens or there are no consequences.
Exactly. So yeah, well, I did my best. You know, don't worry, be happy. That's not what we intend to teach.
And I think this is a complicated mindset that has many aspects, and I think that's why sometimes we struggle to teach it, because we're trying to make it simple. And part of our challenge is to introduce this into the room and then work with it in the room, bringing up live examples, because when we give the live examples, it suddenly becomes a bit more simple.
I think this mindset is very closely related to the player mindset, in the sense that focusing on what can you do right here, right now, what's your capacity, your ability to respond. That's exactly what we teach about the player.
Yeah.
So it's by being a player that you engage in success beyond success. And this is exactly the same thing that we say about being a player. You know, being a player does not guarantee that you're going to get what you want.
Yeah. And then if your process doesn't work, you don't get the result, get the curiosity to understand what happened and where you went wrong and what you need to do differently. So exactly. It's the learner mindset also.
What can you learn? Yes, exactly. Become curious. What can you learn that will help me deliver the results next time?
And then bringing in, I think, the skills around communication, conflict, and coordination is about having the conversation to find what went wrong, and having those difficult conversations with each other to make sure that we're still aligned, that we're still going after the interest, not the position. To look at the way that we coordinate, the way that apologizing if we broke if we failed to meet commitments. It's all
well, yes, and you know, Leanne, what you are bringing up is something that's so obvious. You know, life does not happen in fractals or in chapters. Life happens as a system. And the only reason we created this model of conscious business, you know, the I, the we, the it, the mindsets, the skills, and then the creative negotiation, the impeccable commitments, is just a model breaking down the bundle. You know, we are unpacking the bundle of reality to be able to understand it and to intervene in it. But what you are describing is life. You know, life happens. Bundle, and we're trying to unpack it to understand it, and then to be able to better influence on it. But you know, life does not happen in a model.
Thank you, Richi. This has been really, really helpful, and I'm hoping that everybody who's listening to this, it helped you to understand the model better, to think about ways in which you can bring it alive in the room more powerfully. And we're going to introduce a space for you guys to share how we are working with this model in the room with our clients.